Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well and enjoying the recordings throughout the last week. In a little bit, we are on day 8 for Top 10 for 30. And the next topic is a very large area, especially in my signature program, Revival, the 4-door save method. I talk about this really for days. It's a big part of the restorative content that I include, and I think it's also the piece that I would say 100% of the time comes up with my clients, and the challenges they present around this area. And of course, in my own life, my children was always teaching. Okay, I'll just tell you, it's boundaries. Boundaries is a big one, and I know we hear that word constantly. We may identify it through conversation with friends or family, work, our children. Watch your boundaries, or be mindful of your boundaries, or you are not respecting my boundaries. And I don't think we give it enough attention in its severity of how serious and important boundaries are for oneself. And it really displays and shows the ultimate respect for yourself and shows others how to treat you. You teach people how to treat you. And this is done very much through this boundary topic, this section here. And it really determines how we're able to interact and relate to the world around us, the people around us. And what it does is it lets me know where I end and where you begin. It lets you know where I end and you begin. And so it's quite clear. This takes practice. First of all, it takes awareness, because it is such a complex topic. And there are a lot of elements, different examples and scenarios when it comes to boundaries. And they are literally the physical and internal rules that are set by yourself. What goes in, what comes out. These are the words that we speak, the words that we hear. We get to choose what we hear as well, of course. The scenarios that we're in, the physical environments, and the types of interactions in general that we permit in our field. Now, this is why boundaries really does come up in the work that I do, and why I've made it such an important area within my programming here is many of us have grown up in dysfunctional environments. And what this looked like was the rules, the consequences, the values. There was a lot of inconsistencies, okay? So your parents may have said one thing and told you to do one thing, but they were doing the complete opposite on the other end. And this could be within your household rules. This could be within the belief systems of our rules, the systems in general, our schools, our healthcare systems, the foods that we eat, what we see, on our televisions, on our internets now, that what we should do to be healthy, but then we hear, something on the back end saying, well, it's actually unhealthy for you. So there's a lot of inconsistencies. And of course, I'm just going to bring it back down to the environment that we grew up in, is there the physical abuse, the emotional abuse. And so when you are physically and emotionally abused, you're really going to have a hard time identifying your boundaries and what is acceptable from others. And like I said, I know this is only 10 minutes, but I can go on. I do go on for days. My signature program is 12 weeks, and we go on for days on this because we really, it's that internal. I talk about the micro habits from before. It's the internal system, the internal rules that we operate on, that we program on, that we really need to identify, look at the area for adjustment, and then look at exactly how we're going to change that, of course, with practice. Okay, so if we are in these environments that are very unacceptable, it confuses. It's confusing because we weren't taught it. All right, and so what we allowed in our field, what the things that were said to us, done to us, it was confusing on what was acceptable or not. And although when we are physically and emotionally abused, we are broken inside. We are completely broken, and it doesn't feel good. Okay, and hence our coping outside of ourselves. Hence that we are not in command of ourselves, and we look for something outside of ourselves, like drugs, like alcohol, gambling, sex, and all of the above. So ultimately, when I want you to sit with today, in terms of the characteristics of boundaries, and I'm just going to kind of go fly through it here, is I want you to identify your physical boundaries. This is the physical space and the safety around that. What does that look like for you? You have emotional and internal boundaries. So our emotional needs and our rights. We have rights, including the right to our thoughts. That's the one nobody can take from us. The right to our thoughts and the right to our actions. Okay, intellectual, and that lets us trust how we view the world and the information that is available, and the ability to make one's own opinion, judgment as we see fit. There's so much information. There's so many opinions. There's so much information right now. So this intellectual boundary allows you to say, I respect your opinion, and I see how you would come to that conclusion or that opinion. However, I have a different opinion on this, and you being okay with that, you not having the need to fix or appease somebody else by to fit in and changing your mind. By all means, I think we need to be flexible. I think that's the power of flexibility, and the power of evolution is just because we learn something doesn't mean we can't unlearn it and, of course, learn something else. But this is where this intellectual boundary comes from. Spiritual boundary, believing in that higher power, that higher self that embraces within your life, and again, as you see fit. Holding that boundaries, this is my belief system, and I'm not going to allow anybody to blur that for me. Big one. Next one is the sexual. The sexual boundary is a huge one for many of us. So clarity on one's consensual desire, comfort, safety, and expectations around sex. Okay, and we have different types of. So I gave you the different types of boundaries and such, but there are different characteristics that are attached. So we may have our rigid boundaries around these areas. So we're quite rigid. And again, remember what I said, it really does determine your environment that you've grown up in. Okay. A wall that you build up, if you're rigid, those walls are going up. Nothing can go in and nothing can go out. And trust is a big one for that, especially with somebody that has been abused and sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused. You don't trust anybody because your environments, the world potentially has taught you, I can't trust anybody. So what are your boundaries around that? There's no boundaries. So a person is not protected and everything can go in and out. these are these very inconsistent, um, you just, you are kind of a chameleon. So you really will, you will shape yourself in order to just fit in wherever you can. A lot of times, this characteristic comes from somebody that has been abandoned, has lost a significant other, a guardian that they've trust, or that they were in an intimate relationship with somebody that they did trust. They did give, they let them in, and they are they're confused by that, because a lot of times, especially with the violence against partners, is there's that honeymoon phase. So the cycle of abuse is, there's abuse, emotional, physical, and then you go up to the honeymoon, and I'm sorry and I love you and all these good things. And once you get that recognition and that acceptance and that positive feedback from your abuser, if you didn't get much of that when you were a child, that's what you're holding on to. That's exactly what you're holding on to. And so we really have to acknowledge what characteristic you are identifying with within the no boundaries. Okay. That can be confusing for the receiver as well. I can imagine it's confusing for yourself. And then we get the partial. So they're applied sometimes, but typically they're inconsistent and unreliable. So this as well causes confusion. Okay. So at one point you may stand your ground and speak about how your physical and emotional and sexual boundaries are very clear. You may say one thing, and then there may be a scenario and a story playing out in the background, from trauma, from your experiences, that actually lets this this person or this environment, the scenario, they come in and they actually breach what you verbally said, that this is unacceptable, and then it's the action that you said you didn't want, actually it gets breached. So this causes confusion, of course, for all parties. And then we got the healthy boundaries, and the healthy person is protected, chooses what comes in and what goes out. And by all means, just because there's the 4 characteristics that I've identified, that you can go in and out of these. Okay. And so just be aware that when you're sitting with really recognizing what your boundaries are, and how you personalize your boundaries. So it's the awareness piece. Okay, sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it. All right, like for example, with a person with no boundaries, if they're unaware of even their need for privacy and invading the privacy of others. So by touching others inappropriately without consent, they get it. They don't give the verbal no, and say, no, I don't want to be touched like this. There's just no boundaries there. They touch and they feel, and by all means, this can be, it's a culture thing as well. I mean, we hug and kiss in this family. We're very affectionate, but what I'm speaking about is that feeling of touch that doesn't feel very good. And when you have somebody that touches you and it doesn't feel very good, with somebody with a healthy boundary, they're going to say, please, please don't touch. Okay. Also, this is a tough one as well. When we take on a lot of people, others' emotions. We personalize other people's emotions and their behavior. Okay. And that influences you. Okay. And so when they say yes, when they want to say no, just based on emotions, they want to please you. Somebody else may come in and they may be fire hot. They may be just, their energy is reserved and not wanting to be, you can just feel the energy in the house or in the environment in the workplace, that they're not approachable, and there's just that really low energy of anger, shame, however you will. So you internalize that. That's their shit, but you make it your shit. And when you want to say no, if this person comes to you and says, well, can you do A, B, and C? And you want to say no, you're going to say yes. Okay. You may tend to get too close too fast, and you're dependent on others for how you are feeling. This is a big one. You are expecting change in your life, or you're trying to reach a goal, and you're expecting somebody outside of yourself, another person, to change what they are doing, or if they're going to do something for you in order to meet that goal, or even just emotionally meet your emotional well-being. So I will stop being sad, mad, angry, resistant when they do this. Okay. And you feel like a victim. You feel responsible for the feelings of others. And you will notice that's that codependency coming in, that interaction. And so you will notice codependent interaction, and you have relationships that have no boundaries, because again, you don't know where you end and they begin. It's just very confusing. The lines are very blurred, and that's that codependency. And I'm sure you can identify that even in your own households, your jobs, relationship with kids, friends, or interactions. And many times the scenarios, the experiences that we have, it may be based on one particular or a couple or a group of the opportunities and experiences may be based on that person's energy, that person's beliefs, that person's, and you sit there and you want to make it better. But what happens is with the codependency is you actually compromise your own well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being. You compromise your well-being in order to meet the needs of the other person. All right. So it's something that I give you a couple examples here, a couple scenarios. Like I said, this topic, I go on for days, and it interweaves within the programming, because it's that these are micro habits and micro boundaries. They're small. It's that internal kind of fiber, because it's so multi-layered and complex, based on the boundaries we have are based on our experiences that we've had growing up. And when I say childhood, obviously I mean, yes, childhood is part of that in the environment. It's very much ingrained, but we have experiences as well that shape our views of the world and ourselves, even in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s. Okay. And so sit with that today. Okay. And recognize whether there's an area there that you need to adjust and shape, because you really do treat people how to teach you. And that starts with you. You are responsible for that. Okay. And it's not easy to change these habits, not easy to change these behaviors, and responding to people and how they behave, because you can't fix their shit. You can't. But what you can do is you can be responsible for how people treat you. All right. So I will leave you with that. I went over the 10 minutes. I know I did with this one, but this is a big topic and challenge that comes up in everyone that I work with, professionally and personally. And so we're all just learning here. All right. Take care of yourself. Have a great day. I'm sending you all the love, all the light, and we will talk again tomorrow. Bye for now.